All right. Hello. All right, name's Christian Kull. Is this thing working all right? Let me get it lower. Let's see. That's better, right? Yeah. All right. Hi, everyone. As John mentioned, I'm Christian Kull. I work for Adomni. I've been there for nearly 2 years. I look after the client partnerships team. If you're not familiar with Adomni, we're a programmatic digital out-of-home solution. A little bit about me. I've spent a couple of years in ad tech, actually started out as an advertising agency, where I learned a lot about how to sell and how not to sell in certain cases. Love outdoors. In fact, I'm really looking forward to taking this mountain bike excursion, although some people are convincing me to play some golf instead. We'll see how that goes. Love cooking. I love good food, good wine, and I currently live in Connecticut with my wife, 2 kids, and 2 dogs. And speaking of which, here they are. And as I was coming over to do this conference and knowing that it's pharma related, healthcare related, maybe we just say health and wellness related, it made me reflect on my own health and wellness journey, since my 20s, and partially because I was coming here, but also because I have 2 teenage kids that have so much energy and are full of life, and it made me reflect on that time in my life when I had that much energy. And so I was like, let's see how this unfolded, from my 20s until now. And in the 20s, I was loaded with energy. I always like to say that I lived an active lifestyle, but there was definitely a lot of scenarios where overindulgence became a commonplace. And in order to fix the overindulgence, I would have to do, some Advil and a leave and pick myself up, dust myself off, and move on. As I went into the 30s, I would say that it was a little less frequent on the overindulgence, started eating healthy, but they still did make a cameo and would have some Advil and a leave where appropriate. But now in my 40s, it's a little bit different where I am focused more on, or really conscious about what's going in my body so I can take the proper nutrients, so I could fuel my body, but also before workouts, maybe I'll take an energy drink or protein powder to make them more worthwhile. And I also learned, when I hit 40 that I had high blood pressure. And so this was a whole new thing for me. And so now I guess I can take the stance of saying, all right, this is cool. At least there's something out there that could keep that in check so I can maintain that healthy lifestyle. And so that's a little journey, my journey. And what I want to do is kind of take this presentation in the form of as a consumer and how I would maybe lead you to Adomni or digital out of home just from an education standpoint. And so with that said, let's think about 3 questions that I would want to challenge you all to answer. And the first one is, in the cluttered environment that we all live in right now, how do you properly capture attention of consumers? It can't be easy because there's so many marketers that are pining for the attention of the consumers. And the second one is, to that same vein, is how do you gain consumer trust and brand loyalty knowing there's so many different options that are out there? And then finally, how do you have omni-channel digital marketing activations that trigger results, right? It's not always about brand equity, it's about results, various KPIs. And I'm going to add a 4th one in here based on a conversation that I had earlier during the speed dating. And that was with Tim from Lasso, and he said that his biggest challenge is fear, consumer fear, about stepping off and addressing their issues, about being comfortable with taking medication and addressing whatever ailments they have. And I could relate to that. Even with the blood pressure medicine, I was really resistant on taking it. I didn't want to have to rely on medication. I wanted to try to figure out how to, bring it down on my own through diet, red wine. I like the red wine, it's still flowing. So I figured maybe I'll just take this medication and keep drinking red wine and it will be cool. But anyway, I felt like that was a good question to incorporate is, how do you dispel fear and remove boundaries by setting appropriate relationship with your prospects? So we'll talk about all this. But first, let's talk about some of the challenges we face in the industry. And I was alluding to this earlier, but consumers are marketed to more times now than ever before in history. And just even think about your own daily journey. You know, however you're checking Gmail in the morning, or having your Twitter feed coming in so you can get the latest and greatest on news updates, or you're exploring whatever recipe you're going to prepare on Pinterest that night, a how-to video on YouTube, or you're exploring WebMD because you have a sty in your eye. There's all these different things that are where you're involved in that are task-oriented objects, and it makes it more difficult to break through to the consumer because, frankly, they're in the middle of shit. And consumers, are just they've increased their standards of excellence. They're in the driver's seat, and so they're demanding authenticity from marketers to make sure that whatever message they see resonates with their lifestyle. And it's safe to say that as a consumer, I would say that everybody's BS meter is sky high. I know mine is. I feel like we're all skeptics first, like you're guilty until proven innocent. And then with all of the different options out there for consumers to choose from, it really drives up the new user acquisition cost. And so that's a big problem. It costs more to acquire these users. And then again, if you're interrupting these consumers' daily flow, because it's all task-oriented projects, whether they're working or trying to fulfill a task, if you interrupt their flow, that could create a lot of animosity, anger, frustration. So there's certainly obstacles in the way. And so Adomni's philosophy is, for your brand to be on top of mind, you need to be in front of their face. And even if you think about all the brands that are here today and agencies, here it is. And that's already a lot of different, I don't want to say clutter to demean it, but it's a lot of different competition. You're all competing for consumers' attention. And this isn't even an accurate number, right? Because every single brand on this slide has different products in their portfolio. Every agency there has multiple clients that they're working with. And so the thing I would challenge you all is how can you incorporate something different into your overall media mix that could potentially stand out? And so a lot of what I just talked about was digital media and how everything is task-oriented. I come from a measurement space. I'm not dispelling digital media at all. I know it works. I just don't know that you have to be really particular with how to deploy it. Time and place is key. Segmentation is key. There's a lot of different facets to making a digital media campaign successful. But I will say that it's very easy to mess it up. And so, but with digital out of home, you could take a different stance because it's now thinking about it as targeting consumers as they go about their daily journey while they're just going about their day when their face isn't buried in their phone, right? Like this is something where there's no tasks that are involved at the moment. They're just going about their day. And now you can have this unmissable, uninterruptive, yet meaningful way of getting in front of consumers. Because a lot of people think like, oh yeah, digital out of home, it's really just about, digital billboards and transit shelters and bus shelters. No, it goes well above and beyond that now to have screens, to reach these consumers throughout their day, whether it's inside gyms, whether it's inside doctors' offices, grocery stores, convenience stores, pumping gas with our friends at GSTV. So there's a lot of different ways that you could target these consumers throughout their day in a meaningful and strategic way. Actually, before I even get into it, I know that you were asked to stand up, but I just for my own knowledge, can you raise your hand if you are a marketer or an agency real quick? All right. And then keep them up. Oh, keep him up just for a second. And then keep them up if you've ever run digital out of home before. Okay, cool. And then keep them up if you ever heard of Adomni. Okay, we have one. All right, I'm glad to be here. Welcome, everybody. This is fantastic. All right, so let's talk about 3 reasons. Right now, this is more holistic about digital out of home. I haven't even touched about Adomni. But let's talk about 3 reasons that digital out of home matters. And so, again, preconceived notion, I would say that digital out of home only caters to brand equity and brand awareness, and that's not the case. And how it's evolved, we've seen that digital out of home actually triggers results. It moves the needle at bottom of funnel KPIs, right? And in this particular study, it shows that 2/3 of individuals that were exposed to digital out-of-home campaigns actually conducted an action afterwards. And so we're going to get into this in a little bit, but we're measuring campaigns back to multiple KPIs. And so the thing to call out here is that what's cool about digital out-of-home is that in the same activation, you could have brand equity as well as solving for bottom of funnel KPIs. I just don't know of any other channel that can do that at scale. Second reason why it's important is digital out-of-home is programmatically accessible nearly everywhere at this point. And so with Adomni, we have access to nearly 500,000 screens across 28 different countries, right? So huge footprint. But an even cooler thing is that with the venues, we have nearly 40 different venue types. And so a lot of the fun with creating plans is coming up with the venue types that's going to make the most sense to move the needle from both brand equity and those bottom of consideration funnels. Like I mentioned it already, doctors' offices, gyms, pharmacies, grocery stores. There's a lot of things for you to incorporate into the plan that could move the needle. Also, not to quote Tim twice in one day, but he did say that he was told by an anonymous party that anytime something didn't work from a bottom of a funnel KPI, we'll just call it brand awareness to make sure that it still maintains value. And so I would say that any campaign that we run for you, let us measure it to a KPI that's important to you so you understand whether it is in fact moving the needle or not. All right, so who is Adomni, right? We've been talking a lot about out-of-home, so here it is. Adomni is, you could call us a screen aggregator, if you will. We partner with literally 375 different media owners around the globe where they provide us access to their inventory, and we make it available on one simple and easy-to-use platform. It's our DSP. And so all the usual suspects that you would think are in there, like Lamar, Outfront, Clear Channel, JC2Go, Volta, GSTV, who's here in the room, right? All of these folks are our partners that we work closely with. So it's just very important to know that all inventory that you want to access is available here and through Adomni. And we are, what might be surprising to some of you is that we're even incorporating data into the mix, data for segmentation, excuse me. And so there was a segment earlier about talking about behavioral and demographic data being the cornerstone of any buy as a starting point, and you could certainly do that. We work with PlaceIQ, among other data partners, to help us narrow down screens or prioritize screens that would over-index against your segment of choice. And it's not just about, behavioral and demographic segments too. It's about like targeting beachgoers or gym goers, anything that has a healthy lifestyle. And so just think about, as you try to incorporate digital out-of-home into the mix, how much it can mirror digital media by the use of leveraging data. And when you go into the platform and our DSP, it appears exactly like it's a digital media buy, and it is just a matter of time before digital out-of-home is the next major ingredient within the overall digital media mix. All right, quick sample. We did this on the fly. We wanted to just look at what a campaign would look like in Salt Lake. We're all in Utah, so let's look at Salt Lake. And we're like, all right, let's pretend that the initiative was either driving traffic to Walgreens and targeting them while they're in Walgreens. And so all the red dots on the screen represent the Walgreens in Salt Lake. I think there's 9 or 10 or so. And you'll be happy to show that we used a 5-mile radius, which you indicated was your sweet spot. So I'm glad we were on the same page there. And so we narrowed down venues that we thought would make sense. And you could see just from reading here. So digital billboards for branding, doctor's offices, groceries, gyms, and drugstores. And just from those 5 venues, in one market, that would be 250 screens across those 5 venue types and 19 million monthly impressions, right? So it's a tremendous amount of scale when you're just looking at one market, and relevance too. And so the bottom left picture, that's actually cooler screens inside of Walgreens. They're one of our media owner partners. And so you could think of, attracting consumers into Walgreens and then reaching them again while they're in Walgreens where they can fill scripts or even just get any OTC products or pistachios and vitamin water, whatever works for you. Okay, third point. So measurement, we can now measure these campaigns back to multiple KPIs, which I mentioned before. It's a game changer for digital out-of-home. There's 5 different reporting options that we offer, highlighting 2 here because I think that would be what would make the most sense for you. And so the first one is website visitation lift and conversion. So essentially, does that exposure translate into more people visiting my site? And more importantly, are they taking part of an online success event that you would label as a conversion, whether it's a transaction, whether it's somebody like downloading a video to learn more about the medication, whatever the case is, we'd be able to understand whether or not that's performing. Second one, foot traffic visitation lift. So does that exposure translate to more people visiting brick and mortar retailers that are important to me? So like, does this drive traffic to Walgreens or not? So these are just 2 that we narrowed down, but there's other ones like for CPG vertical, which are probably near and dear to many of your heart because they're sisters to your initiatives, like our friends at GSK and Bayer, and we measure those campaigns back to point of sale, looking at grocery, drug, club, and grocery, drug, club data. But also we have brand equity reports as well, and mobile app download reports. All right, moving on. And those exposures aren't we're not just using the exposures for the purpose of measurement, but a great way to bridge the digital out-of-home campaign to the digital media campaigns is through retargeting. So we could take those exposures, we could pipe those to your downstream media partners, and they could serve media against that as though it's an active audience. So it's definitely cool. All right, almost there, buddy. And so Adomni is a one-stop solution. One-stop solution in the sense that this is a new channel. You probably don't have the bandwidth to take something else on, because your focus is elsewhere. And so I would say to you, if you wanted to engage with Adomni, like we would be an extension of your team without you having to pay for it, right? Like we would help build plans, refine them collectively with you, launch them on your behalf, provide reporting, optimize while in flight, and provide one of these attribution reports. All at no charge. It's in the spirit of collaboration. So think of us as a resource to tap into, especially if you don't have the bandwidth to handle it as of now. And then I'll leave you with a case study. And this is, there's plenty of case studies that we have, but I chose this one because it's in the health and wellness category. And it's a client of ours, Thorne. They're a vitamin seller in the DTC space. And they actually ran a lot of the same venues that I've been highlighting here today, like grocery stores and billboards, pharmacies, urban panels, Uber, which is screens on top of Uber. And they drove, this was a brand equity report, and they had a lift in purchase intent and brand opinion, but more importantly, they had a 51% lift in ad recall. And so as I wind down here and drift off so that John could get us to wherever we need to go, I'll just say that just think about how all impressions are not equal and that there's a way to have a bigger splash to reach and establish that connection and that trust with consumers as they go about their daily journey so that they could lower down their barriers. And there's ways to do that with proper setup of digital out-of-home. And then leverage our team as that additional resource so that you don't have to worry about it yourself. And then finally, and have faith in us because we are a team of experts that have been doing this a lot now. And with the measurement that we've done for our clients, those are the insights that we are taking to understand what's working, what's not. And let's do test and learn agendas together to figure out how we keep pushing the needle forward based on what works for all of you. Reach out to us if you want to talk to us and scan that if you wish. But yeah, look forward to chatting with you and seeing you around.